I'm your host, Annie Bowles, and this is News du Jour. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the News du Jour, a calmer space to consume the news. Today we just have a stacked episode, a bunch of smaller stories to go over, so let's go ahead and jump in. So first up, an appeals court has temporarily halted the student debt cancellation plans. So right here at the top today, I wanted to let you guys know that student debt cancellation plans are on hold as of right now. Basically, what happened is 6 states filed a lawsuit. A judge dismissed it, but then they appealed, and the court they appealed to ordered that the program be put on hold until they can take a look at it and make a judgment call. So FYI, this is why things might take a little longer than expected. We will definitely keep you guys posted. And next up for today, a small-scale endorsement with large-scale ripple effects. Sometimes in politics, a quiet move can send shockwaves blaring through the political world. If you heard that Ron DeSantis endorsed Joe O'Dea from California, it probably wouldn't mean much to you. But if you heard that Governor Ron DeSantis was running for president, well, that would be different. But it turns out those two statements are almost one and the same. Let me explain. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis was once besties with Trump. And it's kind of what helped him rise in political power. But now, with Trump in hot water in so many different directions, he's looking less and less like a winner for the Republican Party. Besides, they were always kind of split on Trump to begin with. You know, there are a lot of prominent Republicans who weren't a big fan. And Ron DeSantis has continued to rise in prominence as someone similar to Trump, but without his countless legal battles. There's been whispers about him running for president, Ron DeSantis. But that would mean crossing his bestie, Trump, and elbowing him out of the way to take the nomination. And, well, he might be on his way to doing that. Ron DeSantis announced that he was endorsing Joe O'Dea from Colorado. And Joe O'Dea is a prominent GOP Trump criticizer. And to Trump, this was an outright betrayal by Ron DeSantis, and Ron knew that it would be. This is likely how he softens the blow of being nominated over Trump. He's stepping away from the former president, and this move means he's likely looking to lead the charge for the new Republican Party in the 2024 presidential election. Trump wrote of DeSantis' endorsement, quote, "big mistake," end quote. We love a Pretty Woman reference. And next up for today, the first non-white British Prime Minister. So Rishi Sunak is set to become the third Prime Minister in the past 7 weeks, you guys. But more importantly, the first non-white Prime Minister in British history. His parents are of Indian descent, but born in East Africa. He was a member of Boris Johnson's cabinet, actually, and beat out his former boss for the job. despite the fact that he was actually involved in the very party that got Boris Johnson kicked out from 10 Downing Street in the first place. Rishi was actually beat by Liz Truss just a few weeks ago, but with her quick flame out, he was right there waiting in the wings to take her place. Let's hope that he can bring some badly needed economic stability to the region. So next up, I found this story absolutely fascinating, you guys, but the Ponzi scheme of farmed fish. Let's get into this. A lot of people in the world sustain themselves on fish and other sea life. And as we know, the ocean is already being ravaged by climate change. Whole underwater worlds are being destroyed. 60% of the Great Barrier Reef has been bleached. And if you guys don't know what that means, definitely go check out our bonus episode on corals. You can find it down in our feed. But anyway, our ocean and sea life are in grave danger of being irreparably damaged. And with sea life dwindling, scientists suggested the short-term solution of farming fish, meaning creating spaces in the ocean to raise fish like cattle in an enclosed environment just for the end goal of human consumption. But as it turns out, what they need to feed the fish in the farms was more fish. And now we are at the point where 30% of fish harvested from the open ocean is actually going to feed fish in farm settings. And this is done in the form of high protein pellets called fish meal, according to Yahoo News. And just like a Ponzi scheme, we're kind of using fish to replace more fish and replace more fish. And what's wrong with a Ponzi scheme? In the end, it eventually falls in on itself when the economy goes through a dry spell. And that is exactly what is set to happen with the oceans and climate change. What's more, harvesting all the fish to create this fish meal is having horrible environmental consequences all of its own. Overfishing for the sake of making fish meal has disrupted a lot of local ecosystems, like in southern Gambia, for example, where local fishermen can barely find fish because of the way that new factories are pulling in one type by the ton. Chemicals have also been found there in the water, of course, and that is further harming the sea life. The problem is really kind of spiraling at this point, and as of now, there are no clear answers. And if we hear more on this topic, we will definitely keep you guys informed. So last up for today, a shooting in St. Louis. I have to issue a content warning here, of course. This involves a school shooting. So in case you did not know, St. Louis is actually one of the most violent cities in the United States per capita, according to World Population Review. And on Monday, their residents fell victim to a crime we have been seeing over and over again throughout our country, a mass shooting at a local high school. Just after 9 a.m. at Central Visual and Performing Arts High School in St. Louis, a gunman began shooting students and teachers. He killed a woman and a teenage girl and wounded 6 others before officers shot and killed him. Students climbed out of windows, barricaded themselves in classrooms, and one girl even survived solely because the shooter's gun jammed as she looked him directly in the eyes and he pulled the trigger. These stories are all too familiar at this point. It's unclear why this shooter targeted this particular school, but we're not going to be using his name on here or very much information about him so as not to glorify the shooter. The school itself is only about 400 students, and the shooter was reportedly 20 years old. So motivation, we're not really sure. But regardless of what his motive might have been, this tragic event is just too common in today's America. Our hearts go out to all those affected, and we are praying for your healing. And that is the news du jour. Today, I wanted to leave you guys with the quote, "If you want peace, work for justice." If you enjoyed this episode, please consider becoming a patron of our podcast. For $7.99 a month, you can unlock tons of perks like breaking news text messages so that you're never out of the loop. Tons of bonus episodes are already up there ready for you to binge, and a discussion board full of networking opportunities and much more. Go to www.patreon.com/sugarfreemedia today to become a patron. This is the best way to support our show. Our patrons make News du Jour possible. But a couple other ways to support our podcast are rate and review on whatever podcast platform you use to listen, share on your social media, you have influence, tell your friends, family, and colleagues that you love News du Jour and why you listen. You can also follow us on social media under sugarfreemedia.co on Instagram, just sugarfreemedia, all one word, on TikTok, and sugarfree_media on Twitter. We also have a weekend newsletter called Dreamers Digest that's full of dreamy content recommendations for your weekend and a life update from yours truly. Sign up today on our website, www.sugarfreemedia.co. Our music is by Joey Lavoie and Nicholas Foster. Our cover art is by Hannah Pierce Photography. Our Sugar Free Media logo is by Catherine Jezik Designs. Any twinkling or little footsteps you might hear in the background are by my dog, Rhett. He's a rescue pup and always records with me. We appreciate you listening and look forward to telling you about the news again next time on News du Jour. Broadcasting from Oklahoma.